A Tiger in the Zoo by Leslie Norris. In this poem, the poet describes the mental state of the tiger in the cage. See, tigers are quite ferocious and they love to live freely. But here, when they are trapped inside the cage, they get very little, or you can say limited space to move, and so its real personality can't be displayed. While when they live freely in the forest, which is their natural habitat, there we can see its true personality. That is, you can see its anger or ferociousness. So, this comparison is nicely be shown in this poem. So, let's get started with the first stanza. He stalks in his vivid stripes the few steps of his cage on pads of velvet quiet in his quiet rage. He stalks in his vivid stripes. Here, he stands for tiger. Tiger walks with pride. He is proud of his bright colored stripes. The few steps of his cage. Now, he can't move freely as he gets very limited space inside the cage. So, in that limited space only, he is walking with pride. On pads of velvet quiet. Pads here means paws of the tiger. And velvet, it is a material which is very soft. So, he is moving inside the cage with the help of his soft velvet-like paws. Why it is called velvet? Because the paws of the tiger remains very soft and fluffy, just like velvet. In his quiet rage, rage means what? Anger. And quiet means silence. So both are quite opposite to each other, that is rage and quiet. But in this line, both the words are taken together. It means he is angry, full of anger, but due to his helplessness, he can't do anything. Why he is helpless? Because he is captivated inside the cage. So, his anger can be seen on his face. Now, second stanza says that he should be lurking in shadow, sliding through long grass, near the water hole where plump deer pass. In this stanza, poet is explaining about the tiger who lives in forest, though it is being captivated here in zoo. But what if he was there in the forest? So, he says that if he was there in the forest, he should be lurking in shadow. Lurking means hidden. So, he should remain hidden in the shadow. Shadow of what? Shadow of long grass. And while hiding only, it moves slowly towards his prey. Prey means shikar. So, the favorite prey of tigers are deer. They usually come to roam near any water bodies, so tigers also remain hidden somewhere in the tall grass which is found near the water bodies and wait for its plump deer. Plump means fat and fleshy deer, which can be proved as a good feast for tiger. So, instead of being in the cage, he should have been in his natural habitat where he could hide, hunt and rest as per his wish. Let's move on to the third stanza. He should be snarling around houses at the jungle's edge, baring his white fangs, his claws, terrorizing the village. Now, in this stanza, the poet is saying that instead of being in the cage, the tiger should be growling around the houses near the village. He should reach up to the end of the jungle, and from there he should growl and show his sharp teeth and claws to the villagers. Why? So that they get frightened. It's obvious that if the tiger growls and shows his teeth and claws, people will get terrified. But here, when he did the same, remaining inside the cage, the intensity of fear is less. That is, the people gets less frightened because they know that the tiger is behind the bars and he is not going to hurt them. Now, next stanza. But he is locked in a concrete cell. his strength behind bars, stalking the length of his cage, ignoring visitors. In this stanza, the poet is explaining that instead of being free, the tiger is locked or imprisoned in the cage. The base of the cage is not the natural one, which is made up of grass and sand, while it is a concrete one, which is made up of cement, stone, and dust. And as it is being locked there, he is not able to show his ferociousness or actual strength to the people. He is bound to move in the limited space. He can't go out of the cage. He is quite helpless. So, as he is unable to show his actual identity, he ignores the visitors. He doesn't like people disturbing him there. So, being helpless, he doesn't pay any attention to the people who come over there to see him. He knows very well that people will not get frightened of him, so he simply ignores them. Let's move on to the last stanza. He hears the last voice at night, the patrolling cars, and stares with his brilliant eyes at the brilliant stars. In this stanza, the poet says that during night, when the tiger stays calm and takes rest in the cage, he listens to the sound of the cars which patrols near the zoo, and with the help of his twinkling eyes, he continuously looks towards the stars there in the vast sky, which means that he has lost all hopes of getting into his natural habitat. He is very sad and unhappy as he is confined there in the cage. He seems to be searching for some hope and rest in the brilliant stars. His eyes implies that he hopes for freedom someday. So, with this we have completed the explanatory part of this poem.